In the aftermath of World War II, a significant shift occurred in global politics, reshaping the way nations engage in conflicts. As the United States emerged as a global superpower, a curious pattern began to emerge: a lack of official declarations of war. In this video, we will explore why the United States has refrained from declaring war on another nation since World War II, and the complex factors that have contributed to this intriguing phenomenon. World War II marked a turning point in human history. It was a war of unprecedented scale and devastation, leaving the world scarred and determined to prevent such a catastrophic conflict from ever happening again. In the aftermath, the United Nations was established, providing a platform for global cooperation and diplomacy. One of the key principles embedded in the UN Charter was the emphasis on peaceful resolution of disputes between nations. The Charter aimed to prevent wars by promoting dialogue, negotiation, and the use of international institutions to address conflicts. It introduced the concept of collective security, whereby member nations would unite against aggression and seek peaceful resolutions. As a founding member of the United Nations, the United States pledged its commitment to these ideals. However, the Cold War that followed World War II posed a new set of challenges. Instead of engaging in traditional declared wars, the United States found itself embroiled in proxy conflicts and military interventions to contain the spread of communism. The absence of a formal declaration of war allowed the United States to circumvent constitutional constraints and public opinion. Instead, military actions were often justified as police actions or interventions to protect national security interests. This approach allowed for flexibility and avoided the need for congressional approval or public scrutiny. Let's examine specific examples where the United States engaged in significant military actions without declaring war. One such instance was the Vietnam War, which lasted from 1955 to 1975. Although the United States committed a substantial number of troops and resources, it did not formally declare war on Vietnam. Instead, the conflict was framed as a response to the spread of communism and a commitment to the containment policy during the Cold War. Similarly, in the early 2000s, the United States embarked on military operations in Afghanistan and Iraq.
My fellow citizens, at this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger. On my orders, coalition forces have begun striking selected targets of military importance to undermine Saddam Hussein's ability to wage war.
These actions were justified under the pretext of counterterrorism and the removal of perceived threats to national security. However, no formal declaration of war was made for either conflict. Another factor that contributed to the absence of declared wars was the evolution of warfare itself. In the modern era, conflicts are often asymmetric and unconventional, involving non-state actors or insurgencies. The United States has adapted its military strategies accordingly, engaging in targeted operations, covert actions, and drone strikes, all without officially declaring war. Furthermore, the United States has relied heavily on international coalitions and alliances to address global challenges. Rather than engaging in unilateral military actions, the U.S. has sought collective responses through organizations like NATO or by building ad hoc partnerships. This approach not only spreads the burden of responsibility, but also provides legitimacy and international support for military operations. Additionally, the political and legal ramifications of a declared war cannot be overlooked. A formal declaration of war triggers a range of legal and humanitarian obligations, such as the Geneva Conventions, which protect the rights of prisoners of war and civilians. By refraining from official declarations, the United States has maintained flexibility in interpreting international law and has, at times, avoided certain legal constraints. This approach has drawn both praise and criticism, raising questions about accountability, transparency, and the balance between national security and international legal obligations. War has always been a complex and multifaceted issue, and world leaders throughout history have expressed their perspectives on the United States' approach to declaring war. Here are some popular statements made by influential figures. President Dwight D. Eisenhower: "I hate war as only a soldier who has lived it can, only as one who has seen its brutality, its futility, its stupidity." President John F. Kennedy: "Mankind must put an end to war before war puts an end to mankind." President Jimmy Carter: "War may sometimes be a necessary evil, but no matter how necessary, it is always an evil, never a good. We will not learn how to live together in peace by killing each other's children." President Barack Obama: "We must chart a more centered course. Like generations before, we must reject the notion that we must always resolve our differences through force." President Donald Trump: "We're getting out of the nation-building business and instead focusing on creating stability in the world." These statements reflect the varied perspectives and complexities surrounding the issue of declaring war. Ultimately, the United States' decision to refrain from official declarations of war since World War II can be attributed to a combination of factors: the shift towards international diplomacy, the nature of modern conflicts, the reliance on alliances, and the avoidance of legal obligations. As the world continues to grapple with global challenges, the question of war and peace remains ever present. The United States, as a leading global power, has chosen alternative methods to address conflicts, emphasizing diplomacy, collective security, and strategic partnerships. While the absence of formal declarations of war may give the appearance of a changed approach, it is crucial to recognize the complexity and fluidity of global dynamics. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of why the United States has refrained from declaring war on another nation since World War II. As we continue to navigate the complexities of our world, let us strive for dialogue, understanding, and a shared commitment to peace.